Welcome to the Obvious Podcast, episode number 75. My name is Sonny. I'm the COO at ABC Florida East Coast.
And I'm Peter Dyga, President and CEO at the ABC Florida East Coast.
You are listening to the Obvious Podcast, where all opinions expressed are our own, unless we say otherwise.
Love the show? We ask you to subscribe on any major podcast platform or watch us in action on YouTube. Follow the Obvious Podcast on Instagram, X, and True Social, and now on TikTok. All the links you need are in the show notes. And reach out to us anytime at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. And if you're enjoying the ride, help others find us by leaving a review wherever you listen. So, all right. Happy Friday, Sonny.
Happy Friday, Peter. What a cool week it's been for us here in Florida. How's the weather where you are?
I got out of Florida, Sonny. Our
saw
viewers might notice that our setup doesn't look like our typical one today. And that's because I'm in a remote location south of Florida. I got out. I heard the cold weather was coming, so I was like, where can I go? Let me go to Costa Rica. So here I am. It's cool here, by the way, too. It's like affecting the whole northern hemisphere, but nothing as cool as what you're experiencing. So
well, today my car had heated seats and the heated steering wheel were both on.
You don't get to use them often, do you?
You don't. In fact, last night I turned on the heat of my house, which hasn't been used in years, and that like initial like funkiness you smell because the system's blasting on, and it was intense. Like it's been cold for us, especially. I know all my friends up north are making fun of me because Boston had 2 feet of snow, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, it's in the 40s. We're like dying down here. Iguanas are falling out of trees. So
you and I are you resist that. No, I'm not going to turn the heat on because warm weather will be back in a day or two. But it gets to one point where it's like you're so cold in your house, we have to break down.
I saw my dog shivering. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to turn the heat on. My dog is shivering. This is not gonna go well if I hold off. So Peter, as we talk a lot on our show about politics and just national politics and state politics and everything that ABC does about politics. And obviously we talk a lot about the media. And one of the complaints that I have about the media is that there's never any kind of follow through. They'll do a story and then they'll kind of talk about it for a few days and then forget about it. And you never know what happens. So one of our recent episodes was about our legislative conference in Tallahassee. And so one of the things I wanted to do, now that the conference has happened, is update our audience on how that went and the issues we talked about. And you and I had a conversation about this. We felt like one of the best ways to do that is to have our audience meet our newest member of the ABC family, who played a very important role. In fact, his second day on the job was at the conference. And I really
like doing that, don't we?
Yeah.
Baptism by fire. There's a lot of great stories over the years.
Right. So. His first day was a board meeting, and his second day was a conference. And so we wanted to introduce Jon Carter. Sorry, he doesn't like to go by Jonathan. Jon Carter, to our audience and talk about how Tallahassee went and sort of what issues that our industry and our team is following and paying attention to. That are happening in Tallahassee. So, Jon, welcome to the show. And welcome to ABC. I know this is your 4th or 5th week at ABC, so I know it's been intense and
really? Wow.
Time flies.
Time flies.
Time does fly.
Anyway, I love this idea, by the way, Sonny. I think it's great to follow up on, the legislative conference and not just talk about it beforehand. And by the way, we did a good job, I think, and TJ and everybody in terms of promoting it. And we had one of the highest participation rates of any chapter, and also statewide. So it was really exciting with the level of participation. So I love following up on, okay, we talked about it beforehand. Now let's talk about
what happened
and how it went and where we're at and where we see the next month of session. So anyway. So
before we get into that,
Jon, it's great to have you.
Yes.
So you've been a rock star already in my book, to have you on board. So it's awesome to have you. What do we want to do, Sonny? Let Jon introduce himself a little bit
Yeah.
and his background and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Let's hear who Jon Carter is, and please don't confuse him with the what's the guy's name? Edgar Rice Burroughs character. Jon Carter. That's John. This is Jon. All right, Mr. Carter, all you.
Well, thank you, Peter and Sonny. It's a privilege to be a part of the ABC family, and it was definitely off to the races from day one. So it's super excited to be here and to participate in the ABC conference. And you kind of took some of the talking points. We had the largest participation of any chapter in the state. And it was so important to have that because the East Coast chapter encompasses from the Treasure Coast and Space Coast all the way down to the Keys, which is almost a majority of the state legislature and Senate represents that area. So, Peter once said that you have almost a third, like for every legislator, that 1, 2, 3 is one for us. So we had, I think, over 35 of our chapter members take time out of their busy schedules to participate in, we call it How the Sausage Gets Made, and advocate on behalf of the chapter and the industry. So we were able to cover almost all of our representation. I think we had over 45 meetings or something with either a staff or the representatives. And, some of the bills that we are tracking.
Jon, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes, sir.
Peter, that was a really sort of profound point that just our membership territory alone represents a third of the legislature. I mean, that's a lot of political leadership, political influence, political work that just, I mean, obviously the 5 chapters cover the whole state, but just our region alone is a third of the legislature. And so I don't think we can minimize or just sort of gloss over how much work that takes, because there's a lot of people you have to talk about. And we're obviously talking about state, the large local municipalities, the state, and we're talking about national. So congressional districts and all of that. So there's a lot this chapter does in terms of political influence and the political work that we do. And it's a lot in terms of what the team does and the size that we cover. So I just wanted to point that out to our
in
audience.
terms of the people, the number of legislators, I bet it's even higher. I don't know that I've actually done that calculation. I think Jon alluded to it. I've for a long time talked about just from a population perspective.
Right.
And that's when I'm just speaking of like the Tri-County area of Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. And I mean, there's like 6 million plus people, maybe 7 million, in that region, and a state that's, what are we up to now? 20, 21 or 22? I don't know.
21 million, yeah.
In any event, it's basically every third resident of the state of Florida lives in, the South Florida area. And that's not counting, again, the Treasure and Space Coast. So yeah, I'm like, love talking about, if you think of the entire state of Florida, everybody who lives in it, and you just go 1, 2, South Florida, 1, 2, South Florida. I mean, we're a huge population center, and then you add Space and Treasure Coast and Monroe County, and yeah, we have a significant portion, that of the legislature that we have to cover, and we do it well. And by the way, there's a long-standing history of that. We're a chapter that always has tried to meet and done fairly successfully every legislator during that 1.5 days we're up in Tallahassee for LegCon, which is why, by the way, and I hope I'm not stealing more of Jon's thunder, but he can get into more detail, why we split up, right? We had to split up into walk groups, even to make it possible. So in any event.
Well, Jon was about to get into our issues, but before he did that, I wanted to have him basically talk about his biography and how he ended up at ABC. And I know he looks shockingly young to be an associate government affairs director, but I'm just wanting to know kind of where were you born? Where were you, what's your experience? How'd you end up here?
Thank you for that question. So I was born in Canada, near Niagara Falls, Canada, and I moved to Boca Raton in 2009 with my mom and sister. My mom owns and operates a gymnastics academy and has since I was 5. She was small.
Okay, I'm sorry, Jon. Hold on one second. I just want to make it clear. Peter and I make a lot of fun of Canada on our show. I just want to show to you, prove to our audience, We love Canada. We hired well, he's an American citizen, but you know, a Canadian by birth at our in our ABC family. So it's all just good fun.
It's always fun to be the diversity hire.
Trust us, we don't do that. It just when it happens, it's just good coincidence.
That's right. All right,
Yes.
sorry, John.
No. So, I watched as local government, force my mom's business to close its doors in Canada, due to stupid regulations. She had to go before a city council and ask for permission to be in the building she was in every year. And then one day that variance wasn't granted, so we had to find another way, and that's what triggered the move to America, the land of opportunity. My mom came here to start her business over again, to give us better education. So local government really affected me from an early age. And so, I always had that in mind. I went to Palm Beach State College, and got involved in local campaigns for city council. Had the privilege of serving as a campaign manager to a mayor, getting reelected, serving as a campaign coordinator for the lieutenant governor when he was running for U.S. Senate in 2016. I was privileged to serve as student body president from Palm Beach State, and one of our responsibilities was going up to Tallahassee and advocating for appropriations for higher education issues, meeting with our elected representation to bring the issues to the students. So that's really what got me into this. I've served as a legislative aide to a county commissioner, an aide to a representative in the state of House of Representatives. Prior to joining the ABC family, I served as chief of staff to the mayor of Palm Beach County and did that for several years. So I'm very involved in the process. I've served as a chair of a community advisory panel for the city of Boca, president of my Rotary, and everyone jokes that I look so young to have accomplished all this, and I say I'm aging backwards. So I'm on the tail end of my career. This is
That's great. We're very excited to have you as part of the ABC family. You've already had, been a difference maker, as I say. Certainly appreciate all the work you've done, but I did want to ask you about some of the issues that we're paying attention to that you noticed in Tallahassee, and really if there were any sort of big, broad brushstrokes that you caught kind of in terms of what's happening in Tallahassee that were that's unique insight, a unique perspective that you think we can give to our audience.
Well, this is a very interesting session because it's just kind of picking up where the tension left off last session, and one of the it's very interesting because you had Governor DeSantis had such a great relationship with all of his speakers and Senate presidents since the moment he took office. In that beginning opening session, prior to going to session, he took all of his leadership to Israel on a trip, and that is really where they kind of created that bond and agreed to really come as a united front towards a lot of legislative issues. And you saw that change last session with the entire House and Senate passing, or almost the entire House and the Senate passing vetoes, reining in some of the governor's decisions and serving as the legislative check to the executive branch's power, which we really haven't seen in quite some time. And that kind of triggered this back and forth between the speaker and the governor. And you saw a budgeting cycle where a lot of things were on the table, and the Senate, House, and governor couldn't be further apart. So we didn't have, Florida has a 60-day session. They have one constitutional requirement, and that's to pass a balanced budget. They can file as many bills as they want, but there is no requirement to pass any of them, to hear any of them. So for them to not get that done in 60 days, I forget how many days it took, but we finally had a balanced budget in the middle to late summer. So for a lot of people, it doesn't even feel like the legislative session ended because we jumped right back into committee weeks. And here we are, just the tail end of week 4 of the legislative session. So almost halfway done, and we're going to be looking to see what the budget looks like. But some of the bills that we looked for and we're looking up, one of the big big picture issues is tax exemptions for prefabricated labor offsite. So right now, Florida is the only state that adds an additional sales tax, so how it works is the total of the materials purchased, including the labor. That whole cost is factored into the sales tax if you manufacture those materials offsite and then bring them to the job site. If you purchase the materials offsite and then assemble them on the job site, the materials are taxed as tangible personal property, but the labor is not. So that's an
So
anti.
hold on. Let me say what you just said again for our audience. Those that aren't in construction, who wouldn't understand a lot of the terminology we're using. So in construction, you can buy raw materials and you can assemble a building on site, or you can buy what's called prefabricated. Peter, jump in if I say something wrong, please. You can buy prefabricated buildings or panels or parts of buildings that you can bring onto your location and have them assembled, right? We see them. That's why one of the reasons buildings go up so fast, because there's a lot of construction is now what's called prefab. So what you're saying is that Florida is one of the only states in the country where if you are buying parts of a wall, concrete wall that are pre-assembled and prefabricated somewhere else, you're paying the sales tax on the labor that went into making that prefab wall there offsite.
That's correct.
Got it.
But if in Florida is not ordinarily a taxable item, labor. I mean, is that correct?
I think so. I think ordinarily you're right.
I mean, I don't think Florida, taxes labor, so it's kind of unique. And you mentioned we're the only state actually in the country that does that. So it definitely puts us at a competitive disadvantage. This form of construction is becoming more and more popular. It's a great way for contractors and businesses to control quality as well as cost, right? Because when you can do something in a controlled environment over and over and over, and then bring it and assemble it, it's definitely helps you in that regard. So, any event, one of the key legislative goals that came out of our planning conference, right? So, again, one of the things we're working on in Tallahassee. So where does that stand, Jon?
So right now, there's no affiliated bill number or filed legislation to it. So we've approached the Ways and Means Chair to see if we can't incorporate this into a tax package. But even though there's no bill this session, it's so important that our members came up to Tallahassee and advocated for this, because something like this doesn't change overnight. Since it is an adjustment to the sales tax revenue, it does need to be scored by the revenue estimating conference, and I believe it is currently being scored to analyze that. And then if you take a look at you guys are absolutely right. This is an anti-competitive taxation. And if we're trying to incentivize manufacturing companies to come here to give our construction companies more access to those prefabricated laborers to expedite jobs and cut down costs on all of that, also makes it more efficient on the job site. If you have everyone assembling it there, everyone working on top of each other, it just makes sense to do it this way. That's why it is increasing in popularity. So we need to have these conversations now, because it is going to take us a few cycles to either create a reduction in that sales tax or to eliminate it altogether. If you look at the commercial sales tax or sales tax on commercial leases, Florida was one of 5 states in 2015 that had this sales tax, and it was very anti-competitive. And what happened is it took until the 2021 legislative session it was almost going to be completely eradicated. But what happened was, with the COVID and the pandemic, it completely destroyed the reserves for the unemployment protection funds. So what they said is, once these commercial sales tax on those leases replenished that fund, they would eliminate it altogether. And so now we've seen an elimination of that sales tax. So, different strategies can be deployed when looking at this. So it's a long-term play, but very important to have those conversations now.
Excellent.
So
what else is happening, John?
Another piece of legislation that we were focused on has to do with condo associations. And so for reference, that would be House Bill 255 or Senate Bill 638, Senate Bill 638. And that's by Representative John Snyder in the House, who is part of the Florida East Coast chapter, serving northern Palm Beach County, as well as Martin County. And then Senator Trumbull in the Senate. So this is a piggyback on the statute of repose language that ABC pushed for in prior sessions. So basically what happens is the statute of repose allows for litigation if there are issues with the construction after a certain amount of years, until it's becomes then the responsibility of whoever owns the building to do it. And so the statute of repose originally was 10 years, and then last year or the year before that we managed to get that down to 7 years. And now there's been a lot of debate between why this should happen, because we've seen a lot of condo associations, they defer their maintenance. They don't charge the proper dues for the association, or the spending is all over the place. And then when it comes time for maintenance, some of these condos have neglected to do it, and it has caused catastrophic results. So the statute of reserves and what we're going after is a little bit more transparency. And that would require the turnover, the certificate of occupancy documents to be registered with the Department of the DBPR, which would allow for that time for us to have a concrete of when that statute of repose kicks in.
On your comprehension of these issues is spectacular, brother. So given you're really new to them, in a large way, probably. So, and by the way, even before it was 10 years, it was even higher than that before. Then ABC played a role, I think, getting it down from 15 to 10 and then to 7. It always amazes me, by the way, Sonny and John, how we're going through the process of renewals, and we know that in associations, the number one reason people join is for networking and business development, right? They want to expand that. But the people who every year have to reassess or question, maybe I didn't attend enough things, or when they realize all we do, when you think about the impact of lowering the statute of repose, if you do any of that kind of work, it's amazing. So
Yeah.
my point is, the association impacts the construction industry and everyone's business in so many ways, whether it's workforce development or labor related issues, legislative issues. It's not just helping you build your backlog, if you will, of work. So I mean, this is a great example, and how sometimes the legislature has a way of taking a couple steps back because of some bad decisions.
I think it's fair to point out is this idea that the work that we do benefits the whole industry, right? Whether or not you're a member doesn't matter. Now, obviously, we have some very involved, very invested members who we work with and we kind of share all these issues with, but it benefits everybody. And internally, we call that like the freeloader problem. And that's why I think we are really interested in increasing membership here, because it's like, the more members you have, the more, one, you can tackle more issues, as from what you heard from John, talking about how many issues has come up. And, we talk a lot about the victories, but we really talk about the victories where we have sort of defeated the bad ideas, right? And because a lot of bad ideas pop up, and we don't always make hay of those, but there's a lot of stuff that affects our industry that we just fight at a committee level, right? Before it even makes it past the committee level. And so I think if we do a better job of sort of articulating that as a value proposition to people in the construction industry, perhaps they will realize the value of the political aspect of ABC and not just the what they see as networking or sort of the education piece.
It's a great point, Sonny. So, and I know we're kind of up against the clock. We barely really scratched the surface of some of the legislative issues, but maybe to come full circle or wrap things up, I think we have two different challenges when it comes to membership and renewals. And one is that obviously everyone appreciating the full spectrum of what we do and how it impacts them. I think of another story that you and I have dealt with recently, actually for a year or two now. One particular member, who has an opinion that he likes to share about how he likes to see us get a little more engaged or active on a particular issue. And we're constantly telling people, well, we need you at this legislative planning conference. You need to be involved. You need to be involved in the committee,
Yeah.
to help guide this direction, to help make sure these conversations happen.
Yep.
Because we are a member-driven organization. If you're not there and your voice, and I think we point blank told him that last year, and comes back this year with the same criticism. And guess what? We didn't see him anywhere in the last year. So it's like we can't force these things. If you have these opinions, we ask you to. The solution isn't not to renew or not to be involved. It's actually to make sure you join and that you get as involved as possible. So in any event. I wish we had more time, but because we have a lot more issues. I don't know if we need to do a part two or John, if we gave you like a minute, can you just summarize some of our other priorities or one or two more? I mean,
yes. So one of the last bills that we were laser focused on, is commercial construction projects. And what this bill would do, which is House Bill 405, is it would create a uniform permitting application that would be administered through the Florida Building Commission, and they would design it, and they would have until 2027 to issue that. It would also create a uniform reduction in fees when private providers are used for inspections, and it would also clarify the no damages for delay causes. It sets specific definitions, so that way our members are more empowered when things out of their hands, especially that are, the local controls fault, local governing entity. So it gives them those protections. And that bill is moving. It's passed all three of its reference committees. And so it'll be voted on by the entire House floor. And it's also made some headway in the Senate as well. So that's House Bill 405 by Representative Griffiths. And then the Senator Aaron Grawl, another East Coast chapter district, that's Senate Bill 526.
You talk about a dream bill, for our industry. So in
Yeah.
any event, I hope you, our listeners, kind of found this informative in terms of the great things we're doing in Tallahassee. Your fellow members who are taking the time to go up there and be citizen lobbyists for a day, right, John? I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about breaking up into groups and all the different meetings we see. How impactful is that? Does that make a difference? You've been on the other side of that table, at times. And what does it mean when industry professionals and business owners, come up?
So we used to have a lot of meetings, and I'd sit in or take them on behalf of the representative. And you saw, so many lobbyists, same faces, and it's great. You get the context of the issues. But when you hear from the people that are affected the most, firsthand knowledge, it really changes it. It makes the text on those bills real. And then reminds you that the decisions you make are not just hitting a green button or a red button, but that is a significant impact in someone's life, and that you were tasked with representing, whether it's your district or statewide. You have a vested interest. So, when everyday people come up to Tallahassee, the best product is produced.
It's awesome. John, we're super thrilled to have you as part of the staff. So, and again, we love baptism by fire. So we threw you right into it, and you have done a great job. I hope our listeners and viewers have enjoyed learning a little bit more about John. Get involved, right? Come on out to events and meet him and talk to him. If you're not engaged in the political and government affairs aspect of what ABC does, we invite you to get involved, because we can only right? We're only as good as our members and your engagement. So,
Well, thank you for
Sonny,
your time, and thank you for joining us from Costa Rica. Enjoy the warm weather, and we will see you next Friday.
when is it safe to come back?
Not for another week.
Anyway, all right. For comments, we ask you to send us an email at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. Until next Friday.
Take care.